Welcome to another spine-chilling episode, where we delve into the dark and unsettling corners of everyday life. Tonight, we bring you 4 true college horror stories, tales of terror from dorm rooms, late-night libraries, and shadowed campus halls. These stories will make you think twice about walking alone at night or pulling an all-nighter. So, turn off the lights, grab a blanket, and prepare for a journey into the eerie and unexplainable. It was my first year at university. I had just finished unpacking my belongings and my family had left. On the same day, my roommate finally arrived, and from the very beginning, I sensed he was the most socially inept person I had ever met. I introduced myself as Dan and extended my hand for a handshake. He paused, looked down at my arm as if confused, then chuckled and gave me a nearly lifeless handshake. I had to ask for his name since he didn't introduce himself when we shook hands. He was Dale. I attempted to make small talk, but he responded to my questions with one-word answers, occasionally laughing or smiling awkwardly. Within minutes, we were both sitting on our beds, absorbed in our laptops, not speaking. Frustrated, I considered requesting a different roommate. Anyone would be better than Dale. At first, I thought he was just an awkward kid, but I soon realized he was much more than that. I met some other students on my floor, and they seemed cool, which was a relief. After exploring campus on my first night, I returned to find Dale in the same position he was in when I left. I greeted him with, "What's up, Dale?" But he didn't respond. No surprise there. It was 9:30 p.m. and with nothing to do, I turned off the lamp on my side of the room and went to bed. However, I couldn't fall asleep for a while. Dale was on his laptop until 3 a.m. When he finally closed it, I fell asleep quickly, but woke up within the hour. The blinds had been opened, and moonlight flooded the room, illuminating Dale sitting on the edge of his bed staring at me. I sat up, rubbed my eyes, and asked, "Dale, what the hell are you doing?" He whispered, "Sorry," and lay down again. The next morning, I woke to find Dale had already left. It felt like the first time he had ever left the room. It was Saturday, the first weekend of the year, filled with orientation and campus festivities. While my group was walking by the school gardens, I overheard a couple of students saying, "What is that kid doing in there?" I looked to see Dale sitting in the dirt behind a patch of bushes, rubbing the bark of a tree with his hand. The orientation leader didn't notice. Otherwise, I'm sure she would have said something. I walked by without saying anything, later telling the 2 students that Dale was my roommate to spark conversation and maybe make some friends. They apologized to me, and we awkwardly laughed together. I made friends with those 2, and we planned to hang out that night. When I returned to my dorm, I learned the school had found another roommate for me. Things seemed to be looking up. That night, when I left to meet my new friends, I returned to find Dale sitting in the desk chair facing the door. "Oh, hey, what's up?" I said. He responded with nothing, very matter-of-factly. I sat on my bed and opened my laptop, only to realize I had forgotten to lock it. To my alarm, I found all my emails had been opened, including some folders I was sure I hadn't even accessed. When I asked Dale if he had been on my laptop, he loudly replied, "No." Half a second after I finished my question, I could read him like a book. This creepy kid had been snooping through my computer while I was out. I knew he had done it, but I didn't confront him. I was tired and ready for bed. As I searched for my pajamas, I felt like my clothes had been moved around. Knowing I would be out of there soon, I decided to say nothing. In the middle of the night, I woke to the sound of a zipper. Sitting up, I saw Dale on the floor, going through my bag. I turned on the lamp and confronted him. He feigned ignorance, claiming, "I think you have my toothbrush by mistake." It was the closest he had come to being witty, but I knew he was lying and sensed something was very wrong with him. I didn't want to escalate the situation, so I let it go. The next day, I met my new roommate in the same building, and everything went well. On Sunday night, after a decent conversation with my new roommate, who wasn't a social butterfly but was light years better than Dale, we turned off our lights and went to bed. For the 3rd night in a row, I woke up to a strange noise. It was a weird clicking sound, inconsistent but happening at least twice every 30 seconds. I got up, hoping to find an innocent explanation, like a heavy bag pressing on a weak floorboard or even a mouse. As I searched the room, I realized the sound was coming from the other side of the door. The nightlight in the common area was always on, so when I looked through the peephole, I could see the scalp of a person standing outside our door looking down. I realized the tiny clicking noises were actually coming from the doorknob. Someone was trying to unlock the door. I dialed campus police and they arrived in under 5 minutes. Only then did I feel safe enough to open the door. I found the officers with Dale in handcuffs. I had suspected it was him. I explained everything. That he was my former roommate who had been going through my things, so I switched dorms, only to find him trying to break into my new room. They took him away. I don't know what happened to him afterward. He may have been suspended or expelled. The rest of my university experience went smoothly, but the nightmarish encounter with Dale still lingers in my mind. I spent 2 years at Binghamton University, quickly making a large group of friends, and we went out every weekend. One Friday night in October, when my friends didn't have any big plans, 2 close friends and I decided to hang out in the school's nature preserve by the lake. There was a small clearing on the far side of the lake that was perfect for fires, since it was so far from the view of the school or campus security. Students occasionally came here to smoke, drink, and do other drugs. It was a relatively unknown spot on campus, which we appreciated. That night, we brought a bunch of beers, lit a fire, and had what we referred to as a bro chat. As the night progressed, time passed quickly as the alcohol took effect. Eventually, we were laughing so hard that one of my friends rolled on the ground in the leaves. Suddenly, my other friend stopped laughing and whispered, "Shh." We all perked up and listened, hearing the crunching of leaves and branches in the distance. We quickly threw our bottles into the lake since we were all underage, and it wasn't unusual for campus police to patrol the woods on weekends. We tucked the remaining beers into a backpack. Feeling moderately drunk, my paranoia heightened, likely the same for all of us. This spot was so isolated that it was rare to encounter anyone else that deep in the woods. It sounded like just one person was nearby. The sound of a branch snapping not far away sent chills down our spines. None of us were particularly confrontational, leaving us without anyone willing to yell out to whoever was out there. Instead, we sat in silence, shushing each other. The sounds grew more unsettling as it seemed like someone was circling our campsite, echoing branches snapping and leaves crunching. At first, we laughed it off, but I soon became terrified of what or who it could be. Out of nowhere, a loud thud made us all jump. I was confused at first, even though I could see what caused the sound. It took a moment to process that a branch had been thrown into the center of our fire site. One of my friends took off running, while my other friend and I exchanged glances, half laughing and half concerned, unsure if this was a prank. Then my friend screamed in pain. Another branch had struck him in the face. I grabbed the backpack, helped him up, and we sprinted back toward our dorm. When we reached the road, separating the nature preserve from our dorm, we paused to catch our breath, only to hear footsteps approaching from the woods. We ran back to the dorm, and when we reached our floor, we found our other friend in his room. We looked out his window down to the woods and saw someone pacing back and forth. Every time a car passed, the figure would retreat into the woods. Eventually, whoever it was disappeared for good. We resumed our drinking session in the dorm room, and within 10 minutes, we were laughing about the incident. It wasn't until the next morning that we fully grasped how terrifying that experience had been. After that, we avoided the woods after dark. This story takes place during the first week of school, my freshman year at the University of Iowa. I was just starting to get comfortable with my roommate, who was eager to rush a fraternity. Rush week began the following week, but parties were starting that Thursday. My roommate didn't want to go alone, so I agreed to accompany him, even though I had no interest in rushing. On Thursday night, we headed to one of the lowest-ranked frats, an underground one, I think. His logic was that it would serve as a backup in case the higher-ranked houses didn't give him a bid. The frat house was far from campus, located in a rundown part of downtown. We arrived at a corner house that, without the blasting music and parked cars, would never have been recognized as a frat house. As we entered, we were greeted by a short, chubby guy in a sweat-stained white t-shirt, holding a solo cup. He told us to come right in. The party was held in a dimly lit room packed with about 50 guys, and it was stiflingly hot. I spotted maybe 2 girls, neither particularly attractive. After about 20 minutes of engaging with one overweight foreigner after another, all exuding antisocial vibes, I waved to my roommate to leave. A large group of guys near the door made us hesitate, so we stayed a bit longer. I continued drinking the cheap beer they served, downing 5 cups before I felt a buzz. A heavy guy approached me, offering a small bottle and smirking as he said, "That'll get you shit-faced." I fake laughed and thanked him, expecting him to walk away. But he lingered, watching me drink. I complied, taking maybe 2 shots of some kind of hard liquor. Things started to blur soon after. I suddenly felt dizzy, and the room appeared darker. That was the last thing I remembered before waking up in a dark room, lying in a bed. I could hear muffled music behind closed doors, confirming I was still in the frat house. The room was very dark, but I could make out some furniture and a small closet door. Amid the music, I heard the sound of a plastic bag being crunched, as if someone had stepped on it by mistake. Panicking, I bolted from the room and rushed down the stairs back to the crowded living room. I found my roommate and pulled him outside, away from the group of guys still standing by the door. During the car ride back to campus, I told my roommate I believed I had been drugged. He almost called the cops, but I insisted it would be pointless. He then awkwardly asked if I'd been taken advantage of. I felt no pain, and my clothes were intact, so I assumed not. When I checked the time, I realized I had only been out for about 10 minutes before waking up. Whatever the guy gave me must have been weak, thank God. That was my college experience at an underground frat party, and it remains my scariest life experience. In my sophomore year, I had a single dorm room in a secluded corner of the floor. It was nice because I could still socialize with friends and have privacy for studying or sleeping. A few weeks into the semester, while studying for a biology exam, I heard a light tapping on my door. At first, it was so faint that I almost didn't notice it. I yelled, "Come in!" But the door didn't open, so I got up to check. Nobody was there. I walked around the corner to look down the hall. Still no one. Someone must have been messing with me. I returned to my bed and continued studying, leaving the door open. Nobody came back. The next night, a few minutes after turning off my lamp to go to bed, the tapping returned, this time louder, more like knocking. I called out, "Who is it?" But again there was no response. I quickly got out of bed and opened the door. My small corridor was empty. I dashed 10 feet to the corner of the hall, glancing down the main hallway. Nobody. The following morning, I asked others on my floor if they had been pranking me. Everyone insisted they hadn't. That night, I woke up after 3 hours of sleep to loud knocking on my door again. This time I hesitated before opening it. Summoning my courage, I threw the door open, but nobody was there. This time I sprinted down the tiny corridor and, turning the corner, saw someone disappearing down the opposite end of the hallway. I ran as fast as I could, but when I reached the next hallway, I saw a door at the end shutting. It wasn't a dorm room, it was a bathroom. I felt ready to confront whoever was playing this game, so I pushed the bathroom door open forcefully. The light was off. I turned it on, expecting to find someone hiding, but the room was empty. My first instinct was to check the 2 stalls, which were both closed. I got on my hands and knees to look underneath. I could see heavy black boots in one stall. Taking a deep breath, I pushed the stall door open. I was confused. There were the boots, but no person to wear them. Then, I heard a creepy giggle, not feminine or childlike, but the kind of laugh that could only belong to an old, crazy man. My courage evaporated, and I was terrified, so I ran back to my room and shut the door. I crawled back into bed and began texting every friend I had, but of course everyone was asleep. The knocking happened one more time that night. I ignored it. It continued for about 30 seconds before whoever it was finally gave up. The next day, I spoke to everyone on my floor. Nobody else had heard any knocking, and everyone swore they weren't pranking me. They all seemed sincere. I don't know why this person chose to harass me or who they were. Judging by the boots and the laugh, it was likely an older man, which disturbed me deeply. Thank you for joining us on this haunting journey through 4 true college horror stories. If you enjoyed these chilling tales and want more spine-tingling content, Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. We'd love to hear your thoughts or your own scary stories in the comments below. Until next time, stay safe and stay scared.